Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well tonight, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
We survived Thursday. Tomorrow will be Friday, and we got a shit ton of content to talk about.
Yeah. I was just joking right before we started recording. I was like, I think whenever the morning started, I think I had 3 things in the news bulletin, and then now it's 7, 6, something like that. So, yeah, it's a lot happened today.
Yeah. I mean, the announcement that there's a Wandvision spinoff in the works with Kathryn Hahn at Disney Plus. So
Agatha.
I don't know how to feel about that.
It's Agatha all along. I mean, they got the jingle. They have everything set. And I guess Jock Schaefer's coming back to she's going to be the writer. So, and it sounds like some of the creative team from Wandvision are going to be a part of the creative team as well. So, and I guess Kathryn missed I think she had like signed a long-term deal with Disney too. So I guess everything was in place, and I guess it definitely was one of the breakout things from that show. I mean, there's no denying that.
Yeah, I mean, but in retrospect, I think out of all the Disney Plus shows that have come out, and I'm not really including What If in this because I categorize that differently.
Yeah.
I think it's arguably the weakest of the 3 shows.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And Agatha, yeah, it was a fun episode, but I don't really know if that character can hold up a series on their own.
Well, I think, given the way that these shows have fleshed out supporting characters, I mean, when you think about it, and we still have Hawkeye to come, and so the jury's still out on that one. But when you look at the series and that have been on Disney Plus to date, and how they have really fleshed out these supporting characters, at least from the films, then I can see it. And also, I guess it was it the penultimate episode or where we really got to like her backstory as far as with the other witches, and so maybe. Yeah, and so maybe they will pick up on some of those themes, as far as her backstory and just sort of how, and who knows, maybe we'll get a little cameo by Wanda in this series as well.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to remain skeptical about it because there's still a big difference to me to movie characters who may be minor, but who have appeared in multiple of those.
True.
So there's a higher familiarity with Agatha, who just popped up one time in a series, and the ending of that show and what happens to Agatha. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to play at then, and if they're going to go back in time, future, I don't know, but we'll see. In Feige we trust.
Exactly.
That is the one bit of MCU news we have, and then we have a bunch of DC stuff and a Netflix show to talk about. But DC FanDome trailer teased new Batman and Black Adam footage.
Yeah.
One movie I believe in, one movie I don't believe in.
At some point, you're going to have. I guess it's going to take October 16th to make you finally a firm believer. I know this thing has been around for over a decade as far as Black Adam, but yeah, I mean, I know some of it was recycled from last year's, but I did like blink and you miss it. They did have some news. They did have a little teaser from Black Adam, and also I know there was some. I think they dropped some costume stills. I think I saw like on Instagram this week. So I know you're still like I'll believe it.
2021 right now, Will.
Yeah.
I've seen like a minute and a half of the Batman trailer.
Yeah.
I still haven't watched the actual movie. You want to know why? Because things get pushed back left and right these days.
That's true.
And if one movie is going to get pushed back, it's going to be Black Adam.
Well, they're done. They're in post-production. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, who knows? You know, let's see. So the move variant was like, you know, didn't do anything. So I'm trying to remember my Greek alphabet. What comes after mu? I can't remember right now.
Don't go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, we got other things to talk about and not variants. But we did get 2 teaser trailers for some upcoming HBO shows as well. I kind of watched Peacemaker. I kind of watched it through a reaction video. Mm-hmm. We had very mixed opinions about Suicide Squad.
We did,
but I think we did agree that John Cena was really good. Yeah, in that role, in that character. So I'm excited that this series is coming. It's coming while that movie is still relevant, so to speak. Yeah. And still fresh in viewers' minds. So from everyone who has talked about Suicide Squad, John Cena's performance is one of the ones that people reference as like a highlight of that movie. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's honestly, when I think about that film, Cena and Polka Dot Man are the 2 performances that stand out. With all due respect to Idris Elba, but those are things that stand out for me with that film. And you know, I like the teaser trailer sort of picking up from where we left the character, which you know, was in the end credit, where he was in the hospital, miraculously survived, and I guess they reanimated him so he can. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched the film. I guess I just told you that. Sorry, but you know, it was. I like I kind of, you know, it definitely had that. Even though I don't think James Gunn is like, I think he's producing the project. I don't think he's going to be actively show running, or maybe he is, but it definitely had his you know, his trademark humor, and it also had played up the strengths of that character in the film as far as the humor and the supporting cast in Amanda Waller's A Control Room. And so, you know, I was kind of like iffy about the series. I mean, even though I did really enjoy Cena, but you know, I think I will check it out now. Yeah. The trailer that I did watch is the House of Dragon trailer for the Game of Thrones prequel series that, damn, I thought it was going to take a little bit longer to get here. But we're here. House of Targaryen. And I appreciate they tell you in the trailers this is 200 freaking years before the fall of the throne, meaning it is years away from, like, this is not the same 7 kingdoms that we just ended. And this is interesting also because people have different opinions about prequels, right? But what the added, I don't know if you call it complexity or controversy about this project is Game of Thrones, as popular as it was, as adored as it was, did not necessarily end on a high note. There's some things and it but I'm just excited because this world is very fascinating to me, and I've missed it. I've missed kind of having a medieval show, so to speak, a fantasy show to add to my lineup. And so I'm glad we're getting it. I'm glad it's going to be about the Targaryens. And I don't know if it's necessarily their rise to power or just how they held on to that reign for so long before it came all tumbling down. But we're gonna go back there. Yeah, and both of these series are coming in January. Because this was part of the HBO's big
HBO Max's big European rollout earlier this week. I think it's that the platforms come into like about I think 5 or 6 European countries. So this was their part of that debut for the new platform in those markets. I think the UK is not one, because I think, if I recall, I think Sky is still the broadcaster that has the contract with HBO, but HBO Max is coming to other places. So they're going to be coming out the gate with like 2, obviously a huge property of a Game of Thrones prequel, and then with DC FanDome, again, another, may not be a tentpole like a Batman, but it is a DC brand. So
you mean Peacemaker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said DC FanDome.
Yeah. No, but yeah. Well, they're teasing it with DC. We got DC.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
The last bit of DC news is that Nafessa Williams from Black Lightning has been cast to play Whitney Houston's assistant Robyn Crawford in the upcoming biopic about the singer I Wanna Dance with Somebody.
Yeah. She that news dropped earlier this week. I know a lot of Black Lightning fans were very excited to hear that. She's actually stepping in for another actress who pulled out of the part. So, great. Everything just happens, I guess, happens for a reason, and timing worked out. And so she will be playing Robyn, who was a confidant and big part of Whitney's life. So that film will be coming in the future. So just wanted to drop that DC news, and it's good to see people, getting work after a series ended as well.
Right. Absolutely. No, I saw that. I was very happy for her. As long as the biopic does good. I don't know. As of late, biopics, it's really hard to get a good one.
It is.
And we get so many in a year and then there's always that trend of where there's especially for someone like Whitney Houston, where you hear about one biopic and then suddenly there's 2.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But the last bit of news, and no, I have not watched Squid Game, but it is eligible for the 2022 Emmys, and everyone is talking about it.
Yep.
And Will, you did watch an episode, but you're going to take time because it's just a bit too much.
It is a bit much. And the reason why it's very interesting why it's eligible for the Emmys. So Netflix actually co-produced and financed this. It wasn't a program that was imported. Mm-hmm. So it is an original. So it is eligible for the primetime Emmys. And yes, it is as intense as everyone says it is. So pace yourselves. If you're a binge watcher, either have a lot of alcohol ready at the ready, or just pace yourself, because it's an intense show, I will have to say.
And then finally, Josh McHale has been up to season regular in season 3 of Stargirl, and we are seeing a lot of him. Which this piece of news just tells me that way back when, in that early episode of season 2, when we saw him in the diner looking for Pat, that man is going to reappear in present day probably by the end of the season.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to see in present day, especially given the events of what transpired in this week's episode, which I know we'll get into in a little bit. But
let's jump into it now.
Okay, let's do it. This week we know we got a lot of flashbacks in a good way this week. We left our heroes last week. Rick obviously was in jail. New JSA is in disarray. And Eclipso continues his evil evilness in Blue Valley. And so we start off, as I noted, we had a lot of flashbacks, and we get the grown-up Bruce Gordon flashback, I guess, decades earlier, which I guess, listening to the music and stuff, I guess maybe the 40s and 50s. I think he was distraught over all the visions, and Eclipso was just taunting him with.
Well, I don't know if it was the visions. It sounded like he reached a point, like Cindy did, where he recognizes the evil.
Yeah,
he kept mentioning a bunch of his friends have died, and Eclipso isn't fixing anything; he's making everything worse.
Yeah.
But
I guess he's distraught for I guess basically bringing Eclipso to the U.S. from wherever island or whatever he found him from. Yeah.
Right. No, it was. I think sometimes flashback episodes, it can be just too many flashbacks, but I think they had a great pace with these because all of them made sense and played into what was happening in present day, which was now that all of Courtney's friends have been terrorized mentally by Eclipso, now he's gone in on the family and gone after Pat, Barbara, and Mike, which again, I want to understand the end game here, Eclipso. Like, what are you holding back to mess with Courtney? And I'm kind of proud of the writers because they have not given really, we kind of talked about it in the second episode, but I hope they don't go the predictable route with Courtney. I hope they surprise me with what he's gonna twist in her mentally. But this was a well executed episode. It felt like a horror movie at times.
It did.
Because it was surprising because last week we talked about the magic trick and how we unknowingly were watching two people get terrorized, and now Eclipso is suddenly terrorizing three people simultaneously.
Yeah. And even though I knew the magic, obviously from last week, I recognized the magic trick this week, but the way they took it up a level with how he tormented Mike, and also I like the way they handled it with Barbara.
Oh, I love the Barbara Jordan stuff. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought Shade come in. Yeah.
Yeah, how the Shade came in, but also I liked how Barbara recognized what was going on. And that was like because clearly Pat has the history, and you would think, given all that had transpired with the JSA before, which I love the way they have built that aspect of the story up too. They didn't tell us, they dropped that little nugget. I guess it was like episode 3 or 4 where Pat and Barbara had talked about what really did happen, and they made the conscious decision to not tell Courtney. But with Barbara, this episode, obviously before the Shade popped in to confirm what she was thinking, it was multiple levels there because there was clearly, I think Barbara was feeling some guilt because maybe she did have some attraction towards Jordan, so Eclipso tried to manipulate that. Because thinking back to the first season, there were some really, real moments there where it was just like, are they gonna go this right? Are they gonna go that route? Because Jordan did, he was very charismatic, and
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I knew he was attracted to her, but I think her guilt comes from she's still working in that office and sees his face every day.
Yeah.
And understands that he had these good intentions, and there was an aspect of what he was doing that was right and good, but then there was this whole other side.
True.
So, and then on top of that, you still see his son just wandering around town, and it's like, oh, we killed someone's dad.
Yeah. That yeah, and that's true. I think that's probably more it than her feeling, her guilt being the attractiveness, or maybe it was not where she would like actually carry out an affair or anything with Jordan, but I think you're right. It's more the guilt of like, yeah, he's a really shady dude, and I'm still doing this, working in this office every day. And then, like you said, present day, dealing with the fact that that which Mike definitely in his vulnerability with Eclipso, dealing with Cam, and just how chilling that was. And whenever Cam Eclipso killed the dog, I was just like, damn, they went there. Just to really show just the depths of how powerful Eclipso's visions are, and then even though I knew, obviously, as I said earlier, saw the magic trick this week, but it still was so well executed, and also just like how dangerous if it was like some foreshadowing too of like if Cam did fall and became Icicle 2. How potentially powerful he could be, like his father, or even more so.
Yeah, that he's going to be such a season 3 villain. He has to be, depending on with how this is going to go. The truth has to come out, and then he's gonna kind of take Cindy's spot. But I mean, while all of this stuff, and I agree, it was brilliant bringing in Cameron to twist the knife with Mike, because I like the head games more so than the killing of the dog or the freezing of the car. It's just the twist of the knife with these guilt, and the fact that we know Cameron lost his mom at an early age, and then Eclipso uses that to play into now he's an orphan essentially, and Mike was also abandoned by his mother, so he used that to create doubt and fear in Mike, and anger. But on top of that, then you have Pat, who there was almost just this contrast with him, because it was more of a haunting with him, where the Eclipso really just wanted to make Pat remember exactly what happened during the first time that the JSA met Eclipso, and it was structured really well. And then I like how it was all about the secret. And in a way, Eclipso won this episode, because nobody died. No, he didn't get a soul of anybody, but he did cause chaos with this family unit who had all this trust. And now they realize that the parents have been lying to the children.
Yeah. And the other thing so what I like is the parallels between the old JSA and the new JSA, because Eclipso had, for different reasons, caused dissension in their ranks. But at the core was this moral dilemma about killing, about what it would take to rid ourselves of this enemy. And so, we saw a couple episodes back the debate with Courtney and Beth and Yolanda and Iron and the rest of the team, with the discussion that they had, and like, Rick was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take him out," and and Yolanda was like, "No, I've killed." She knows what that will do to your soul. And then see it with the OG JSA, and seeing how Starman reacted. Okay, when they had the discussion, and he was, of course, the great use of, if you're going to bring in the Flash, Jay Garrick, great utilization of him to be that sort of moral compass for everyone. So, so I was wondering how they were going to integrate Jay Garrick into the story, and using it in the flashback with the original team instead of present day was, at least up to this point, was the right way to go. And then Sylvester, like, saying, broke the tie, sort of like Rick would have done, I guess, but then afterwards, when he comes back to the car after killing Gordon and having that same kind of like realization that Yolanda had after what happened in the first season with her and Brainwave, like, those parallels between the two teams and how, that act of having to do the thing that heroes do not ultimately want to do in killing someone basically led to both teams falling apart in some form or fashion. So I like the way they had those parallels. And then of course, like you said, with Courtney, I think they're still, they're getting there with her. I think there's still, like you said, something more that's going to happen that's going to be that breaking point. The betrayal of the trust was just sort of like, okay, here's the opening, and then the whatever the final thing that could make or break her as Stargirl, and maybe this is where Sylvester will come in and help write things for her, because of what we learned in this episode. I think we'll see that and before the season comes to a close. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but
is there anything else about Stargirl?
I thought about with Pat and his decision not to tell Courtney again, the betrayal of the trust, and how well that played, and if Pat and Barbara had told Courtney so that the new team would know what really did happen, would we be in a different, would the new JSA be in a different place now? And would Yolanda would have quit, and all the things and all the other things that have happened would have transpired? But that's for a what if scenario.
Yeah. A good segue into what if they had their season finale. What if the Watcher broke his oath? And we got to see how the Guardians of the Multiverse are put together. A lot of familiar faces of versions of our heroes and villains who we've known throughout the episodes leading up to this moment, except for Gamora.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've heard rumors and thoughts about how there was supposed to be a Gamora episode. Yeah. But then it got canceled for some reason. Yeah.
That wasn't a rumor. Actually, the show, the creative team of the show did say, but for COVID, they were planning on doing Gamora and the space guy Stark that we saw as that 10th episode, because originally the first season was supposed to be 10 episodes, but COVID cut it short.
Well, I mean, to me, it wasn't that bizarre. I thought it was kind of nice to have one of them. We don't know the full history because they summed it up pretty well.
Yeah, they did.
She won. Got it. Overall, this episode was fine. I found it funny how Black Widow just steals the show again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay. Jesus. But it was good. I don't know. I feel like I got a bit burnt out towards the end of this season with the what if. I will say another redeeming part of this is I really like how we saw Doctor Strange again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I was, just thinking about our discussions about this show and watching it and stuff. And just overall, we've gotten a lot of Marvel content this year. I'm just wondering if we've hit that, if we've somehow have gotten to a saturation point. Which if you had talked to me in 2020,
right,
I would have been like, oh hell, bring it on. But yeah, maybe we need a little bit of time to breathe before we get anything more, and I guess we will have that in some regard, because since Hawkeye won't come until late November.
Well, Eternals are coming in November too.
Yeah.
November. I think it's like November 16th or something.
Yeah, it's pretty early because I know it's gonna have its world premiere at the Rome Film Festival later this month, and then
all the spoilers will be out.
Yeah, and then I want to say it's like November 3rd, whatever that first Friday is in November. I think it's around the time it comes out. But in any event, I thought I was, I was texting you last night, and I was like, I did not know initially after I finished watching the episode how I felt about it. And I've had a day, and I've had 24 hours now to reflect on it, and it was okay. It was one of those situations where the penultimate episode was better than the finale.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, and it happens in some situations. We as we were talking earlier tonight, we were with WandaVision and the other shows. I will say Loki was the one Disney Plus series so far that's been able to stick the landing. Now that we've had, and granted, I know this one is not live action, it's animation, but still in the MCU family.
Right.
There were some definite highlights of this episode, and just in thinking about it, the arc over the season, as we talked, speaking of Gamora and Tony Stark. Tony, at least this episode, Tony didn't get killed. But again, it was good. He was left out at all the main event. So right. There were, the thing that it did do well was setting up things for the second season. One of those being, what will be the fallout of the Watcher intervening? Because he has his oath that I won't intervene, but he did, even though he may have not solved the riddle of how to take down Ultron, he did facilitate our Guardians of the Universe, of the multiverse, coming together. So he did break his oath, of non-interference. His prime directive, to borrow a Star Trek reference.
Well, he not only did that, but he also, at the end of it, when he was supposed to do what they did in Endgame and return everyone to their own universe, he gave Black Widow a new universe.
Yeah.
The one where Hank Pym destroyed the original Avengers, and she was one of the sacrifices during that whole thing. So he planted her there. And so what does that mean, and what does that do? And I do like that aspect where this is the one episode where they don't really answer that question of what does happen. You could say, well, obviously they're able to take down this crazy Ultron version, but they also, there was some additional decisions that were made that may have consequences in season 2.
Yeah, for sure. There was that, the other one thing I did find predictable, I don't want to say predictable, but when I saw Killmonger, I was like, well, he's going, he performed to form. And so that was kind of like, okay. And then, obviously it was very touching to have the obviously, as we know now, the last performance of Chadwick, and another thing that the creative team did share was, that had things continued, they were going to, do a spinoff of Star-Lord T'Challa. Speaking of spinoffs, so there was that, so I like that aspect of the story. And then of course we can't have a MCU finale without an end credit. And I think the parallels here is not, with these what ifs, that they're not always a one-to-one parallel. So I'm thinking basically with that Hydra Stomper suit, basically I think Steve is going to be the Bucky in this situation, where he's going to be like Winter Soldier, but this time he's just going to be Steve that was cryogenically frozen in time, and that'll be what we'll see with Captain Agent
Carter.
Yeah, Captain Carter. Yeah, God. Yeah, sorry, it's been a long day. Sorry. Yeah, Captain Carter. Yeah, I just that'll be, I guess, a continuation of their story in the second season.
Oh yeah, I think I'm not going to be surprised if some of these versions of these characters in these universes we continue to revisit in season 2. And not only revisit those, but potentially get some versions of some other characters. So
yeah.
And
then,
overall, I'm glad I watched this season. It was solid. It may have gotten a bit exhausted by the end of it, but I'm not gonna be mad when season 2 drops.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely watch season 2 when it comes. And also the other thing that this series did succeed in making it in the main timeline with the other live action things that are coming up, how Stephen Strange is going to sort of really step into that role as far as being one of those core characters moving forward. And really in the multiverse really established that, and sort of laying those breadcrumbs for the upcoming Doctor Strange 2 as well. Even though Strange Supreme obviously is in the pocket universe of a pocket universe, but our Doctor Stephen Strange in live action will clearly play integral role with Spider-Man coming up, and then of course his own film and next year in Doctor Strange 2. So yeah,
Doctor Strange 3, the pocket universe inside a pocket universe.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Moving on to Doom Patrol. I don't know what it is, Will. I am not on the bus. After I learned my lesson from last week, and so this week I brought my expectation meter down a bit. It's not that I don't like the season, right?
I mean, I'm enjoying the episodes. It's not that. I mean, it's not like where I'm just like I was with, say, The Flash this past season or whatever. Mm-hmm. But but you're right. For whatever reason, this season so far it's not clicking with me the way the first 2 did.
Right, exactly. I haven't had that, oh, I love this show, this is brilliant moment. And we just watched the 5th episode, and I'm like, what are we doing? What is happening? Why does it feel as though, and I had the same complaint with Stargirl season 2, and they've recently really turned that bus around, and I'm fully on that bus. But I hope that this is what happens with this season of Doom Patrol, because right now I'm watching the episodes, but I'm just like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
I'm bored. I don't know what it is. Like, not even the Jane stuff gets me. I mean, I think it's interesting that this episode started with Kay wanting to go to the surface, but for some reason it just, I mean, I feel like I fell asleep, and the next thing I know, she's talking to the leader, to the Fog, who's the leader of Dada, the Sisterhood of Dada. And I don't know. There's something about this, and I cannot place my finger on it, about why, despite having a lot of episodes with the characters together and interacting together, there's not that spark or that extra layer of complexity.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's because, we've had the 2 seasons of the Therapy Patrol, just to put a global term on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like the characters are just kind of running in place right now.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because like Vic, that was a nice moment today with Vic and Silas, with Silas realizing that, oh yeah, what you said last episode made sense. I'm gonna turn, so I'm gonna go, since I've already lost my privileges to Star Labs, I'm going to go ahead and take it one step further and reactivate Grid for you, Vic. So there were moments that I was like, I really was engaged. Like the stuff with Vic this week, actually, I think I was really, I was more engaged with that story, especially when they were in the fog and he came across Frenzy, who is the guy with the bicycles, but at the same time I was like, so it was getting to those core things that I like about the show, about questioning your identity and questioning who you are, and it was well executed, but it just didn't have that same sparkle as it had before. And I don't know if it's because we, like I said, it just feels like we're running in place exploring these things about these characters, and I'm okay with character studies and stuff, and and it's fine to do that, but I just feel like, what's the end game here? Right.
Yeah. It almost feels as though that this is a filler season, where they had to, due to COVID, had to quickly wrap up everything they started last season. And this season feels as though they're trying to get their bearings of the new dynamics. And we're really just watching the characters. Like, this is almost an epilogue where we're just like, okay, we're starting here with the characters. The goal is to get them from point A to point B, because that's going to lead us in season 4. And I'm just like, but I want to be able to enjoy that movement. And right now I feel like you said, they're just running in place. And I don't know what the goal is. I mean, Rita, I don't really understand this dynamic between Rita and Madame Rouge. One minute I think they're going to be enemies. The next minute they're both drunk and walking around the house. And then Rita gets pissed off and she's like, I'm going to go be a time traveler. So screw y'all. And then Larry's been a problem since season 2. Let's be honest. For Larry, they cannot figure out a new way to make him feel like a refreshed character. He just seems to fall into that same pattern again and again and again. So
but I think him being separated from the negative spirit, and because ultimately Larry evolves from negative man to positive man.
Okay.
So that's so we're seeing that evolution there, and of course we in this episode we get his son Paul again, and we were introduced to last season. As far as grown Paul, when he went to his the farm and the family to see his extended family. So Larry's a tough nut character to crack. I mean, he's definitely he has a lot of baggage, and I think the gimmick this season with him is this mask that's moving around inside of him, and trying to figure out what that evolution is to his new form. The stuff with Jane and the fog, it was pretty, it was inspired by the comic, and in the comic, I guess the fog had absorbed all of Jane's personalities, and because of all the turmoil that we're seeing played out with Jane and the other 64 personalities with Kay now, ultimately the fog vomited it all out from their construct. But yeah, Jane, Cliff and Jane, that's the one thing that to me has been like the saving grace so far for this season is their dynamic, because I still laugh out loud with their banter back and forth, and then their interactions with the rest of the team, because that's the one spark that's still a constant that I'm like, oh yeah, all right, that's working for me. But the other pieces of the story it's a definite slow burn season.
Yeah. What is with all the slow burns? Too much slow burns, guys. Like,
yeah,
we've been on hiatus for so long, and you come back with a slow burn.
Yeah, and it's fun. I'm okay with it, but yeah, y'all got to pick it up, because I watched last week's Titans, and I was like, maybe we should switch up the lineup again.
See, I saw that comment and I did not respond to it, because I don't know what episode of Titans you watched. I know what episode of Titans I watched, and I was like, this is ridiculous. There's still no explanation for the whole Donna coming back and saving Bruce.
Oh, well, they're getting there. But
No. We just spent time allowing Doom Patrol to use the whole slow burn excuse. No, you don't end an episode with something like that. Immediately pick up and act like nothing happened. And I'm just like, no, I will not move forward in this story until you explain that.
The Titans' pacing issues have reemerged.
They so reemerged for me. I don't know when I'm going to watch the next episode. I'm so mad at them. But yeah, because they got me. I was on that bus, but I've walked off that bus. I've walked off of that bus.
Yeah. I've walked off that bus with Supergirl because of the first few episodes this season. And then even though people have told me that Supergirl is doing much better, I was just so burned by it was just so disinteresting, and that even they may be telling some great things to close the season out, but it may be one of those things that I'll just catch it on the back end after, when everything else is on hiatus.
Right. All right. Well, on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can follow me on Twitter at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and visit our website, www.cnnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.